Hello and welcome into another edition of the Talking Fantasy Baseball podcast alongside the one and only Josh Day. I'm your host, Eric Henriksen. Josh, how you doing?
Doing pretty good. Ready to talk fantasy baseball.
Yes, let's do it. On today's show, we have a handful of players that need talking about, including Corbin Carroll, his injury and replacements, the return of Jurickson Profar, the debut of highly exciting rookie Chase Burns, and then a couple other guys, one an overperformer, maybe, one an underperformer, maybe. So I will reveal those later in the show. You have to stay tuned for that. And we have more trade news from our 10-team league. It's just been a wild ride there in terms of picks and players and keepers just being thrown left and right as if
Oh yeah.
they're pennies. And I just am a little frustrated. So we got to talk about it. So just a friendly reminder, we release new episodes twice each week, Fridays, sometimes Saturdays with our full feature-length episode, and Tuesdays with our shorter news and notes episode we call the Midweek Minutes. So be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. We're available on all major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and the Odyssey app. And leave us a 5-star rating, a like, a thumbs up, a kind review. It all goes a long way to helping us out. But a quick programming note now that I just vomited all that out. Next week, we will only have a midweek minutes episode because next Friday is July 4th, so there will be no feature-length episode next Friday. And then we will return with a new episode on Friday, July 11th. So nothing the Tuesday after July 4th either. So you have today, Tuesday, and then Friday, July 11th, we'll be back with a new episode. Just a quick programming note for everyone out there. All right, let's get right into it. Players that need talking about. All right, Josh, I went through and curated a list of a handful of players that needed talking about. This is the Talking Fantasy Baseball podcast, so they need to be talked. They need to be talked.
Talking it through.
Yeah.
Talking it out.
Talking it out. They need to be talked.
Yeah.
So last week we were going to talk about Giolito and Profar, and there was somebody else on that list, and I don't think they're relevant anymore. So
There you go.
I put together a new list.
We saved our breath.
We did. I think it was Cam Smith. I think we really did save our breath. So first up, Corbin Carroll. It was revealed that he had a chip fracture in his wrist earlier this week. I know this really hurts for you. This hurts for one of your teams, the Corbin Barrels.
Both teams.
I know both teams, but you named one of your squads after him.
Well, funny enough, in the deeper 12-teamer, I feel like it's not as bad because of those. There was some like questionable drops maybe a month ago in that league, and I was able to pick up like Lawrence Butler and Dylan Cruz and this is the Keep Forever League, which is even even more bonkers. I know Cruz has been injured, but anyway, I'm just a little more set up in that league than I am in our 10-teamer. So yeah, I'm left scrambling a bit, I guess.
Yeah. For some reason, the outfield pool in the 10-teamer is a lot shallower. I don't know why.
I don't know.
But yeah, you set yourself up for success here for some of the players that we might go into here in talking about Corbin Carroll's injury and the replacements for him. So first, let's just talk about the wrist, right? Not an ideal part of the body to have an injury to for a hitter.
Nope.
So do you think this, I mean, we don't really have a timeline yet, do we? Or did they announce a timeline?
We do not have a timeline as of this recording.
Friday, July 27th at 2 p.m. Eastern time.
I think from what I like, rumblings around the industry suggest after All-Star break, maybe we'll get him back.
That's not terrible.
So maybe, sometime in August.
Let's hope early August, right? 5-6 weeks.
Yeah. And I think there might be some ramp up time with a lot of these types of injuries, especially with hitters and hands and all that kind of stuff. I feel like they're not like, it's not like they come off the injured list and they're, peak player. I think there's going to be some rust. At least I anticipate that. I mean, it's Corbin Carroll. He's quite a superlative player. But he's also human. So yeah, it's not a devastating loss, I would say, like in terms of like months, but it's definitely going to hurt probably teams and their as they are playing for contention, I would say.
Yeah, I think it's gonna hurt teams that need to make a push up the standings.
Hmm.
Because he is a 5-6 category contributor.
Yep.
So I do worry what this injury will do for his power when he comes back.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, that being said, maybe he'll run more. So you might get contributions elsewhere, but he's still going to contribute when he comes back. But like you said, I think there's going to be a bit of a ramp up to him getting back into the flow of things. Minor league rehab assignments can only do so much. It's not major league pitching. Basically, just gets your body used to swinging a bat at full speed. I think you know. Um,
Yeah.
so, perhaps a little less power, a little bit more speed for Corbin Carroll when he does come back. And hopefully he will be back in time for a playoff push if you're lucky enough to make it that far or be in a position to make it. And who knows, maybe he takes your team from out of the playoffs to into the playoffs when he does come back if you're not currently in a playoff spot. But to avoid any slide down the standings and to avoid any disastrous outcome and maybe keep you competitive from here until he returns, who are some guys that you're looking for that might be a good replacement for Carroll in the interim?
Before we get to that, I do have an interesting thought here, which is I wonder if like this injury, and it's like not his fault per se. This was just he got hit by a pitch, so I wonder if this is going to drag down his value next season because the fantasy community, I feel it just relies very heavily on recency bias. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, he was injured, his numbers weren't as good last season. So then like is he going to get pushed to the back half of round 1 or round 2? But then he's like I just feel like this happens every year with some of these players where we have these amazing players, but people are like, oh, well, their numbers weren't good last year, but it was only because of like a random injury. And then suddenly they're like, oh, wait, he's good again. And it's just like,
It's like, why are
you
you
know,
surprised?
a dog chasing its tail a little bit. I don't know. I always this type of this is the tangent, and there's really no way of knowing or predicting this, but this sort of phenomenon I feel like happens across all fantasy sports, and it's just endlessly fascinating to me. How we undervalue certain players just because they have like a freak injury. Now I know it gets complicated because there's players like John Carlos Stanton who are very prone to injury, but there are obviously different types of injuries. So anyway, I just find that interesting, and I'm just curious to see how this plays out over time with Carroll.
Well, he's at about a half a season, 72 games played, 20 homers, 44 RBIs, 10 stolen bases. So you want to double that up. Obviously it's not going to be doubled because he's going to miss extensive time here. But, you're talking 40 homers, 88 RBIs, 20 stolen bases,
Yeah.
255 batting. Like, that's phenomenal. Like, I do. Yes, there are some aspects of the fantasy community that just totally dumbfounds me, and we're gonna get into one of those things later. But I will give the general community the benefit of the doubt, looking at those stats and going, "Oh, I only see about a half season worth of at bats, but oh my god, look what he did," you know, and then just doubling it. But I don't know, people are dumb.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we can, with Carroll, maybe there's just a pedigree of player because he did, last season he was struggled for the first half of the season, which was covered extensively, and then he just completely turned it around in the second half, and he became a first round. I think he was a first round pick this season. So
because he had a hot second half, so
right,
people
well,
have that short-term memory.
Recency bias. So
Exactly.
all right, I guess we'll see. Anyway, yeah, let's talk about potential replacements, which, spoiler alert, there are none. because that's the first round pick. But you can definitely, probably find some useful players.
Yeah, I think you can sort of piece it together as needed, right? So again,
Yeah.
only 10 stolen bases so far from a guy that we were expecting to steal, you know, 40 basically.
Yep.
So if you're looking to replace stolen bases, I think that's not going to be hard because you're not looking for, a Bryce Terang type who's just going to steal a ton of bases, because
Hmm.
you don't need that to keep up your current production. Um,
Right.
but I think it's the home runs and the run production, scoring runs that might be the hardest thing to fill. I think one guy who's curious, and someone that you picked up in one of our leagues, twice this week, in fact,
It's another story.
is Ian Happ. What do you think? Is Ian Happ a good replacement for Corbin Carroll?
I think he's serviceable. I think he's kind of like, I mean, if he is available, I think he's like, I don't know. Yeah, it's like odd because this was in our 10 team Yahoo League, um, which is kind of odd because it's like, as you mentioned earlier, there's it outfield is it's kind of slim pickings on the wire, except for there was Ian Happ, who's I believe he's like over 90% roster. So
But not in our
I
league.
not in our league. So I don't know how actionable this is. Um, but I do kind of think I picked him up because you know, I don't think he's going to steal a lot of bases. But he does hit leadoff for I mean, so far a really great Cubs team. So I think he's going to score a lot of runs. I think he has potential to hit good amount of RBIs. I think he should maybe hit 10 to 12 home runs rest of way. Um, and hit maybe 250. So to me, like I think he's going to be very productive, and I think there's a lot of other outfielders like this.
The glob.
It's yeah, I think he's kind of like the best of the glob in some ways. Just because I think he'll be for the most part. I know he slumps, but I think in June he's actually been pretty good. So I think he's going to be productive when he is on. Which is why I picked him up. I dropped Michael Harris for Ian Happ, just because I was just getting nothing from Michael Harris. Like no power, not a whole lot of speed, hitting at the bottom of the Braves lineup. And out is like ex Woba like in the toilet. It's just like I'm done. Like he was the keeper of mine, but I can only keep him for one more season. And it's just like I just don't think he's worth it, at this point.
Hold the phones.
Uh-oh.
That means the Michael Harris saga has come to an end.
It's over, people. It's done.
You finally made the decision to move on, cut bait, cut your losses. I mean, you got your guys back anyway in Churio and Caminero, so
Yeah. I'll let him be someone else's headache. And also, I think the, pie in the sky projections for Michael Harris, as we kind of talked about in previous podcasts, it's just not that exciting anymore. Like 2020, it's nice with a decent batting average, but it's not like, I don't know if it's keeper material in a 10 team league anymore.
no, not with how he's performed over that's a year and a half at this point, I think.
Yeah, so yeah, it's just time to move on.
Now
Um,
you said Ian Happ not really actionable, right? 91% owned. Somehow was not owned in our league, so that was a good pickup.
yeah.
Some guys that are lesser owned, and I'll just kind of throw them out there. Tell me if you're interested or not. George Springer, outfielder,
Yeah.
40 runs, 11 homers, 38 RBIs, 8 stolen bases, 260, 825 OPS.
Yeah, actually I was considering picking him up as well. I was looking at him too. I think the reason I went with Hap is because I think the supporting cast is a little better, at least at the moment.
Here's another one, a guy who's been hot over the last month. hitting over 300 with an 851 OPS, and especially over the last couple weeks, he's got 4 of those 5 homers over the last 2 weeks, and that's uh, someone who's dual eligible, first base and outfield, Alec Burleson.
Oh,
How now no speed there, but any interest in Burleson? I feel like we kind of did this last year. Like, is he good? Is he not good?
if he's hot right now, you could pick him up, see where it goes. Doesn't he have, isn't he platooned?
He has been playing basically every day since mid-May.
Oh, maybe they're just going hot hand.
Yeah, no, his last day off was June 6th, but I think that was just a day off.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I mean, if he's hot right now and you need you just need something to plug into your lineup, and sure.
Yeah, and I'll give you 2 names that do have the platoon issue, but are 5 category contributors. Otherwise, first one is Wilyer Abreu, who seems to have slowed down a little bit, mainly due to an injury, but he showed himself to be productive earlier in the season. And then the other is, what about Josh Lowe?
Yeah, I think just like in the context of our leagues, which are pretty shallow, I'm not as interested in platoon guys. I know we play in daily leagues, so we can plug and play guys as on a daily basis, but I tend to look for players that are going to give me consistent production. I don't really like that kind of headache of like, oh, I'm going to play this guy here, bench this other guy, because that means I have to have like another player that I'm sitting. So I don't really love that aspect in our shallow formats. So I think I would kind of I would go with Springer. I'd go with Burleson over those guys, I think.
Actually, you know what? I'll give you 2 more. Lourdes
Oh.
Gurriel Jr., who's plays for Arizona and may have a better lineup spot now that
Hmm.
Carroll is hurt. So he could be a beneficiary of a more of a prime lineup spot. 10 homers, 41 RBIs, 7 stolen bases, 257 batting average. And rookie of the year runner up Colton Cowser, who's actually he's got 6 home runs in 22 games. Limited playing time this year because he did have a wrist injury like 2 games into the season. So Colton Cowser, rookie of the year runner up, former big time prospect, and Lourdes Gurriel, teammate of Corbin Carroll. Last 2 names.
You're probably getting more average from Gurriel and kind of other counting stats like runs and RBI. So I think he's a little lower on the list. Hauser, I mean I think I would go with Hap or Springer over Cowser, just because I think Hauser's just because of the high
Oh,
strikeouts.
it's so bad. 33% strikeout rate.
I think he's gonna. Well, he kind of showed this last year. Is he's just super like the high highs and the low lows. And I just think, what is his playing time gonna look like in the low lows? Yeah, like,
Yeah.
is he gonna be sitting? So I think I'd kind of put him in the platoon, even though maybe he's not a strict platoon. I'd kind of put him in the platoon camp. Oh, I have a name for you.
Sure.
I think he's been kind of bandied about recently by different outlets. But what about Addison Barger?
See, I looked at Barger when I was coming up with this list of names just now, and I love the StatCast numbers. Love it. Like, they are beat red all the way
Yeah,
up and down. Like, this
I
guy
mean, the
looks like
ISO is great.
yeah, he looks like Otani in his StatCast, right? We should do. I feel another, the
Mhm.
no name game. I feel another no name game coming up, when we just base it off of our StatCast pages and who's who.
Yeah, yeah,
Because if you did that with Addison Barger, you'd think he was Aaron Judge, Shohei Otani, right?
yeah. He looks great.
The issue is I think he is platooned. Um,
Ah,
and he may not have been for a minute, but he hasn't been playing every day over the last week
all right.
or 2. So I am a little worried about the playing time there with Addison Barger. I also am worried that sure, the StatCast page looks great, but what if he's just like an empty StatCast page? Like, those guys exist.
Yeah,
Like, Jonathan Aranda is relatively an empty StatCast page.
yeah.
What's the difference between those 2?
I don't know.
There you go. So I think if you're looking for a Corbin Carroll replacement, George Springer is probably the most widely available that we would
Yeah.
would go with, and then maybe go down the list there to Alec Burleson, and if none of
Lourdes
those,
Gurriel.
yeah, if both of those guys aren't available, Lourdes Gurriel. But moving on, a guy who actually is widely available, who
Oh yeah,
may
this
be a
guy could
decent
be.
enough Corbin Carroll replacement. He's coming back from an 80-game PED suspension, so he's not eligible for the postseason, but that means he's eligible for the fantasy postseason. Depends on how much morality you want to carry on your roster. Jurickson Profar, uh, is he a good Corbin Carroll replacement? And my general question about Profar was, is he worth stashing? Because I believe he's coming back next week.
Yeah, I mean, I was hearing about his return, and I was looking at him, and I was like, oh, should I stash him? But then, like, just kind of looking at his numbers, his projections, it's a little meh. I mean, I know he had a great season last year, but I kind of wonder if that is like the ceiling. Just looking at his track record, like he just kind of seems like, and I guess he's projected to hit kind of near the top of the lineup. If not, is he going to hit leadoff or hit second for Atlanta?
I think he's going to hit second. You'll have Acuna lead off, then you'll have
Right, right,
Profar,
right.
and then I believe Ozuna, Matt Olson, and Austin Riley, and I think Ozuna and Riley are interchangeable at 3 and 5.
Okay. Yeah, I look at the numbers and I'm just a little underwhelmed. And I just kind of wonder, like looking rest of season projections, it's like 8 home runs, 3 stolen bases, 253. And, it's like we're just talking about like those guys we just listed with the Corbin Carroll replacements. And it's like, I think I'd rather have Ian Happ. I think maybe George Springer if the health stays. I don't know. I don't know that he's like a big stash guy, to be honest.
Yeah,
Unless you're in a deeper league. I mean, maybe some people are listening to this and like screaming, like, I need that. But I think in the context of shallower leagues, it's just kind of bland.
yeah. We've been talking about Jurickson Profar since like 2010, 2011. He made his debut in Major League Baseball at 19. Bet you didn't know that. Back
Oh.
in 2012, he was a big time prospect, right?
Hmm.
So he debuted in 2012. He played a bit in 2013, and then he doesn't play in 14 and 15. Plays a
Hmm.
little bit in 16, a little bit in 6. This is a prospect with uber pedigree, and we have talked about those types of players on this
Hmm.
show. A guy with massive pedigree who just never really panned out. Now, that being said, he has 3 seasons on his resume of 20 home runs, but he's just like his best season came last year when he was taking PEDs. So I don't know. He's 32. He's been around. The point is, he's 32. He's been around a long time. I
Yeah,
don't really have any interest in him. Now, when we see guys come back from PED suspensions, you generally get the same performance that you had gotten before. I will say this though. I know steroids give you about a 4 to 5 foot increase on the distance of your hits. That's like nothing, right? But take into account this. The drag on the baseball this year is making it travel
oh, that's a good
4 to 5 feet less. So,
point.
conspiracy theory alert.
Yeah.
Profar is going to have no power now. He's going to go back to the guy who hit 9 home runs in
Yeah,
2023, 4 homers in 2021. Like, I don't see a useful player here. I think people are just excited because of what he did last year. 24 homers, 94 runs scored, 85 RBIs, 10 stolen bases, and 280 average. I'm going to take under every projection that's out there. So I'm
I
going to
agree.
take him. The Bat X has him at 8 homers, you said, and a
Yeah.
253 average. I'm going to take under on the home runs, and I'll
Damn.
take under on the batting average. I think he's going to hit 240, even though he's going to hit second in that lineup.
Eric X.
Yeah. So if you're desperate, go ahead and stash Jurickson Profar, but I'm not sure that you'll absolutely need to do that. Next up, we've got the most exciting pitching premiere that we had this week since Jacob Misiorowski, I would say, and that is Chase Burns, who got to face the Yankees at home at Great American Small Park in his debut, and he looked electric out of the gate.
Hmm.
What did you see from Chase Burns?
Yeah, I mean, I think he struck out, was it the first five batters he faced?
He did. Yep.
Yeah.
Includes Aaron Judge.
Yeah, it was a great performance. You know, I can't help but be a little salty because I got burned by him.
I
Because I dropped him actually in our 10-teamer.
was surprised you did that.
Well, I did because I just felt like I've just been in like this weird, just kind of like a holding pattern. I don't know. It's like, is my team going to compete, or am I rebuilding, or am I selling? And I couldn't quite get a sense of like when, because I don't have an NA spot in that league. It's currently held by another player. So I couldn't get a sense of when he was going to get called up. I was hearing like August. So I was thinking like, well, I don't know that I really want to hold on to this player. Just hanging out on my bench till August if I'm trying to compete. So I dropped him for another pitcher. And then of course a couple days later we get the news that he's going to start. So it is what it is. I don't really value keeper pitchers. So I oh well. But no, this was it was a great start. I kind of think maybe we're looking at a Hunter Green, maybe with slightly better command.
I think because a lot of people are going to compare him to Misiorowski because these are two flamethrowers that came up within 10 days of each other.
Hmm.
I think Burns is probably the better pitcher. Misiorowski's the better thrower.
Hmm.
And I would say ultimately long term, I'd rather have Burns because he doesn't have control issues to work through that could crop up at any moment. I think Burns looks electric. He's got nasty stuff. It's not as nasty as Misiorowski's by the stuff plus metrics, but I think Burns is legit. I like the Hunter Green comp with more command. Hopefully fewer injuries. What is your outlook for Chase Burns rest of season, and where would you throw him in the rankings?
Yeah, I think he's definitely worth picking up anywhere he's available in the shallowest of leagues, just because the stuff is electric. I am really curious to see how he performs next week because he's got a two-step against the Red Sox and Phillies. Although are are the Red Sox that great of an offense anymore? I
I
don't know.
Yeah, but if it's in Fenway, so
Oh
anything can
yeah, yeah.
happen.
Well, anyway, so it's a tough. I mean, he had a tough matchup against the Yankees. He did pretty well there.
What a way to
So
start your career. You got to face the Yankees, the Red Sox, and the Phillies. Two of those on the
yeah,
road. Red Sox and Phillies on the road next week.
so yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I'm curious. His home venue's not great, especially in the summertime. So I kind of wonder what his ERA is going to look like at the end of the season. Strikeouts should definitely be there. Like his innings cap isn't quite as extreme as Misiorowski, so he might have a bit longer of a leash there. So I don't know. I think maybe I would put him in, top 40, top 30 SP going forward. Just because I think you got to bake in risk and growing pains and all that kind of stuff. What say you?
I would put him top 30. I'm excited to have him in the 12-team league. I think he's going to help my K to walk ratio. He's going to give me the strikeouts that I've been missing since Tyler McGill went down. No, I'm just kidding. He does make my pitching rotation a little bit deeper in a league where I still need pitching. Tyler Glasnow's on the mend though, so hopefully that will help. Um, You may have answered this. Sorry, but I just wanted to ask you one more time. Chase Burns, Jacob Misiorowski, rest of the season.
I mean, I think I basically have them back to back in my theoretical rankings, top 40, top 30. I think I'd give a slight edge to Burns because of, like I mentioned, I think Mizraski has a very tight innings cap. So I think you're going to see short outings from Mizraski. He might get skipped. There might be fatigue. We don't know. But I just think there's a little more assurance with Burns and his workload.
I will take Burns because of the control aspect. But yeah, I think he's a really exciting arm. He's 61% owned on Yahoo. If he's out on your waiver wire, go get him. You definitely have a worse pitcher to drop, like Shane Smith, like I did. Drop Shane Smith. Anyway, moving on, we have the last two players, which I teased at the beginning of the show, that I was going to reveal when we got there, and we have gotten there. So one of these players is having an all-time season, and the other is having an all-time season for the wrong reasons. Cal Raleigh and Zach Gallen. Quick questions for you about these guys, because Cal Raleigh surpassed Ohtani for the number 2 ranked player overall in fantasy this year, earlier this week. And Zach Gallen is ranked about 1,000. He's been awful, which means that there are players who haven't played yet that rank higher than Zach Gallen. He's been a negative value.
Oh man,
he's been a
dubious achievement.
Yeah, not great. So, do you think Cal Raleigh can keep this up? Keep in mind, it was announced today that he's entering the home run derby.
Oh, there's the jinx or whatever. He's gonna be broken for the second half. I think he's gonna have a historic season. I'm not sure he's gonna be. What is his home run pace right now?
Like
66. Yeah, I don't really buy that, but I think I don't know. I mean, I think this is a historic season. I think he's what can you say? I mean,
well, here, are you trying to sell high on him, or are you just holding him because this is just one of those like you got the gem,
I think it's catcher. If you got him, just hold him and enjoy the season. I don't think I would buy him just because catcher's catcher. But yeah, I think if you got him, just enjoy it.
Yeah, I agree with that because I contemplated selling him. I do have him in the 12 team league. I contemplated selling him, but when a guy is doing this, it's so hard to go, you know what? I'm gonna sell
at catcher too.
Yeah,
at the catcher position. So,
but he's also an advantage at the catcher position because he doesn't sit very often because they'll DH him. He's a switch hitter. He's one of the best defensive catchers in baseball.
Yeah.
I think he won a platinum glove last year. He's just turns out to be a really good player. I think he's overachieving in the batting average category. So that might come down. But this is why you don't move on from him. Because even if he comes down to earth, he is going to still be better just out of pure volume than any replacement that you're going to put in that position.
Yeah. And also, fun fact that I believe he has 2 combo meals this season.
He does. He's thrown in 9 stolen bases to go along with those 30+ home runs at the halfway point of the season. Big dumper, dumping him over the fence. He's got the best nickname. I love that name. All right, so Zach Gallen having the exact opposite kind of season that Cal Raleigh is having. Is it time to move on from someone who many considered a fantasy ace?
Yeah, but when was the last time he was considered? I feel like this has sort of been...
I feel like it's been a very steady decline.
Yeah. I think in a 10-team league, I think you can cut him. I think in maybe deeper leagues, maybe you can dash him on your bench. Definitely do not start him right now because I mean, didn't he just have a disaster start against the White Sox?
Yes. It was not good. It was so bad. I'm afraid to bring it up and give you the numbers on the pod because I don't want to ruin the pod. It was that bad. Like, it was.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's been I'm not sure he's been an ace over the past couple seasons. I think he's been useful at times, but I just think this is going to be a down season for him, and I think you can probably in shallow leagues you can probably if there's like a Chase Burns on the wire, if there's
Yuri
maybe like
Perez?
a Yuri Perez or like even like Jose Soriano
Oh,
or like
wow.
somebody.
Ooh.
Well, I'm just saying,
No,
like,
I know. I get it.
he's hot right now, and Gallon's doing nothing for you. So if I feel like at this stage of the season, people are fighting to keep alive and contend, or they need, it's time to stop dreaming a little bit and kind of get with reality and go with the present.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's cut Gallon.
Yeah, I would drop Gallon as well. His peripheral stats do not indicate success. Career high walk rate 3.9 per 9, career high home run rate 1.76 per 9, and then his xERA 4.94, his Sierra 4.42 with a current ERA of 5.75. So yeah, all right, that's a run and a half of improvement, but it's still not great numbers. And I think that the pitching pool is deep enough where you don't have to keep such mediocrity around.
Yeah.
It's just lost capital with where you drafted him. But I wouldn't have drafted him anyway. It's
Oh,
not a fan of his at all. So those are players that needed talking about. Corbin Carroll, Jurickson Profar, Chase Burns, Cal Raleigh, and Zach Gallen. Next up, we got more trade news from our 10-teamer. All right, Josh. We talked about this yesterday. We were both kind of making offers for the same player, and we mentioned him
yeah.
earlier, Jacob Misiorowski. You and I were both going after Jacob Misiorowski, and we've talked about the particular manager on this show that has Jacob Misiorowski in our 10-team league. And he's not the most fun to deal with. So we were looking to acquire him, Misiorowski, not the manager. And we both sent offers, and my offer, it was less value than Misiorowski's probably worth in a keeper league where Misiorowski can be kept at the end of the draft.
Mhm.
I offered, I think it was Clark Schmidt and Noel V. Marte. Was it
Mhm.
maybe not too far under for Misiorowski? And
Yeah.
oh no, actually no, it wasn't Noel V. Marte. It was Orion Kerkering, who I speculatively added as a closer. So it was Kerkering and Schmidt for Misiorowski.
You thought you were gonna get a yes from that?
No. I knew I wasn't gonna get a guess, but I did that on purpose. So I did a lowball offer, and his response to me, and I sent you a screenshot of it.
Oh yeah,
His response to me was, "He's a young stud pitcher, which is hard to find. He's not wrong. I'll tell you what, if you could part with Wood in a deal for him, I'd be open to it." And I was, yeah, you're shaking your head. I could see that.
that
And I know
that
there's no video of
escalated
this.
quickly.
Yeah. This is like when I made the offer for Shane Boz. It was like, I
Oh
want Pete
right, yeah,
Alonso. I'm like, but we're not talking
yeah.
about the same class player here. He wants me to include James Wood in an offer. And I'm sorry, but that is the wrong way to approach this. First of all, we have just totally exceeded the value of Misiorowski. We're talking about a top line keeper hitter
Yeah, it was like
for
a
a guy.
first round pick next season.
Yeah, easily for a guy who has what, like 13 innings of major league experience, 15
Yeah,
innings.
and just like like we mentioned, he has like a really low in like he's going to be capped pretty severely with innings,
Yeah,
and you're like in first or second place right now. So like, why would you spend a first round pick on a pitcher that could be meaningless to you in the playoffs?
right. And I don't really need to keep Misiorowski either. Again, I'm
Right?
just looking in this league. I am looking for one more pitcher, just
Yeah.
one more, right? And so, like, yeah, I don't need to keep Misiorowski in this league because I have Garrett Crochet,
Yep.
and I have Bubba Chandler stashed, and I have Yuri Perez. So, like, though I would take those three guys. Actually, I don't know if I'd take Bubba Chandler. Well, we haven't seen him debut yet, but I would take Crochet and Perez over Misiorowski. Why? Because Perez got hurt already and is back from his injury, and Crochet
Right.
is clearly an elite pitcher. So my response to him was, "You'd have to give me a lot more than Miz for Wood." Miz meaning Misiorowski. I'm not sure you have the pieces to acquire Wood, to be honest. On the other hand, I do have the pieces to acquire Miz, but you're aiming a bit too high in your asking price. So
Yeah.
let's
Did you respond?
yeah, he did after that, but it was just like it really wasn't directly to that. It was more about like
Oh.
I'm learning the keeper situation thing. I'm like, all
Oh,
right,
come on.
I'm
Get
not
out of
getting
here.
into that discussion. I spent a month detailing the keeper situation and rules to him because he just couldn't get it. So
Yep.
anyway, let's talk about how in trade negotiations you need to understand your position. You can't say, well, if you're going to include the best asset, maybe I'll think about it. No.
No.
No. It's can we talk about Wood? Like here's my offer for your best keeper,
Yeah.
period. I'm in the driver's seat in that. So don't approach me like you're in the driver's seat for
Yeah,
these
yeah.
negotiations. I just did not appreciate that, but it harkens back to the exact same thing that happened with the Boz offer. Now, I know my offer was lowball just now for Misiorowski, but to come back just in another stratosphere, it's like, what am I doing wrong?
Yes.
Why me? See, and you have made deals, and we'll get to your deal that you made this week, where it's like that doesn't happen. And I don't know, I don't understand. It's not like I said, here's a last round pick for Misiorowski. No, I said, here's a pitcher who's really hot, who's doing well, who plays on a winning team, and a potential closer because this guy's been looking for closers all year. And I I don't know. Okay, so it was lowball. I'll switch out Schmidt, but like come back to me about that, not James Wood. Anyway, rant over. It's just a headache and a half for me. So what am I doing wrong?
Well, I mean, I think this manager will make you tear your hair out, just because he's really hard to kind of figure out, and I think he thinks he's more savvy than he is. So maybe, um, you know, level-headed logic does not apply.
No.
Um, yeah, like I made an offer before I knew, you were making an offer. I offered him CJ Abrams for Misiorowski. Now Abrams can't be kept, but I've just figured that might, and I think he has Corey Seager, but he's been a little disappointing. So I was thinking, okay, well maybe this CJ Abrams is having a good season, so I was thinking maybe he'd be interested in a quality bat. Um, but immediately after hearing that you had a trade going to him and sort of his response, I pulled my offer. I was just like, well, I'm either not gonna, I guess most managers don't understand that there's a reject button. um, and I'm like, I've already been in a bidding war with this manager preseason that was just really aggravating.
Oh
So I
my
was just like,
god. Yeah.
I'm out. I'm so out. I don't even, it's not even worth the chase here. So I have you to thank for for just getting out of that situation. But I don't know. Maybe it's worth talking with this guy more, because I think even though it was annoying in the preseason, you came out somewhat on top with the deal you made with him. So I'm not sure, maybe you can pull the strings, but
No. You know what? I think there's definitely a trade-off with dealing with this manager. It's how much time do you
oh
have
my God.
to spend?
Yeah.
Because dear Lord, it is a slog in the mud to try and
Yep.
get him to any sort of point of making a deal. And which is why the deal he made with Anthony, which we went over last week during Fantasy Court, I just I just can't imagine like how quick like I'm sure that one went a lot faster because Anthony has some sort of like magic
Yeah.
that we just don't. But yeah. Anyway, again, to reiterate, start from a reasonable point.
Yeah.
Anyway, so moving on, you had an advantageous opportunity. It was like the 3 minutes between me checking fantasy yesterday. I was I don't remember what I was doing, but it literally I was looking at fantasy and then I think I went to like read something and then and then I went back to fantasy and I see this notification on my phone. So what just happened? You
Well,
acquired in a matter of seconds. This was the legitimate opposite of dealing with this other manager. So we
yeah.
had one manager reach out wide to the league and say, "Hey, I will give my top closer and either Bobby Witt or Gunnar Henderson for an elite closer." And first
Yeah.
of all, stupid. Okay. Second of all, you took advantage. Like, tell us.
Yeah, well, I think what's really funny is a little backstory is you and I think 5 minutes before that message, that manager, broadcast that message to the league, you and I was batting you up about and was like, well, I lost Carroll, my team, I think I'm gonna sell. I feel like it's just kind of a middling team that, I'm not sure it can really go all the way, so maybe I should just look to sell. So, yeah, and then 5 minutes later we get this message and it was like, well, I have arguably the best I have four closers and I have arguably the best one in Josh Hader. And it's like, well, I'm not like desperate for saves. Also, he's going to give me a closer back. It's Kyle Finnegan, but
That's fine. It's saves.
saves are saves, and he's been good this season. So okay, sure. So yeah, he messaged and I immediately just sent, Josh Hader for Bobby Witt Jr. and Kyle Finnegan and instant accept.
It's the
So,
most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
so I
This
guess
guy
I'm
was like,
back
I
in the
will give
game
a
now,
closer
baby.
and one of the like top 10 best players in fantasy for a closer. I'm like, I wanted to reach the computer and wring his neck, and I had to in the league chat give him crap. I had to because like
Yeah,
if you don't broadcast
chirped
it to
him.
the league, I bet you can pay less.
Yeah,
He was just like, I will overpay for a closer. He is so afraid of falling off here. He's just spending left and right like crazy, this guy.
crazy.
And not to gloat, but like me sitting one game back of him in the standings in second place, I've made no trades.
Yeah,
And this guy has spent his like a first round pick. He has acquired and sent away Bobby Witt Jr. He has acquired
yeah.
Jackson Merrill and sent away Jackson Merrill.
I
And
can't
this is
believe
all in the
that.
span of like 2 weeks. It's
Yeah,
he didn't even give his team time to like show the new construction of it. I'm just at a loss. And I texted you yesterday. I have a theory why he's not going to be in first place by the end of the season. It's because he's got like 7 Cubs on his roster.
yeah,
And he's over managing. He's legitimately over
yeah.
managing. He acquired Mookie Betts, Bobby Witt, Jackson Merrill. He got Witt in the Merrill deal. He acquired so much
Schwellenbach.
talent. Schwellenbach. He got so much talent in these trades, and he's given half of it away already.
Yeah,
I'm just
head scratcher.
big head scratcher. And just to go back to last week's episode, fantasy court. This was a quick court session. Guilty on all charges of being just criminally negligent as a manager here. All right. We should throw him in fantasy prison. So bad. But I'm happy for you. I'm glad you were the one to be able to take advantage of that opportunity. You're tied for third place right now. And I think that gives you a giant leg up now on
Yep.
the manager that you're tied with.
Yeah.
And
How about that for a Carroll replacement?
You know what that is? That
Bobby
ties
Witt
it all
Jr.
together.
Bobby Witt Jr. That's my answer.
Yeah, we had to hide that for the whole show. That the consensus number 1 player coming into this season is your Corbin Carroll replacement. So I think that worked out pretty well for you. But that really ties the episode together. If you can replace Corbin Carroll, go get Bobby Witt Jr.
Yeah. Get him now, people.
Get him now. He should be available in all leagues. No. But on that fun note, and really, tying a bow on it all. We're going to wrap it up right there. We will be back next week with a midweek minutes episode only on Tuesday. And again, we are off July 4th, and then we will return on Friday, July 11th with an all new feature length episode. So to make sure you don't miss any episodes between now and then, and if you want to go back and listen to any of the episodes in the meantime, previously from earlier in the season, please subscribe. We're available wherever you get your podcasts. So for Josh, I'm Eric saying, happy July 4th, and we'll see you in a little bit.
Get Bobby Witt.